Hello, ag teachers, and welcome to one of our first Friday webinars all about work-life balance and how to balance a full life of being an ag teacher and everything else. So I started with the age-old question, can I be both? A good mom, a good dad, a good spouse, a good friend, a good daughter, son, and a good ag teacher. And I pulled a bunch of ag teachers via Instagram, and here are the common themes that I got out of asking this question, if it is possible. And they all said yes, but you have to follow these four things. And they are planning, sticking to one thing, saying no, and filling your bucket first. All right? So we'll go through all of these quickly. But before we start, I am going to preface this by saying I am not an expert in all of this. I am in the same boat as all of you, learning as I go. As an ag teacher, I'm a 7th-year ag teacher, so don't compare what I'm doing to if you're a student teacher or first-year teacher, because it's going to be different for everyone. But if we take these concepts and make it work for our life, I think that's where the success can come from. And also, my stuff from this, I have a second teacher, but I did spend 5 years as a single teacher, and a lot of this applied to when I was a single teacher program as well. So just keep that in mind as I chat. So first, planning. Planning is so important. I think that being upfront with your family is important because a lot of times when we're ag teachers, we just assume our family understands what we do, which in some cases is true. For me, it was totally new for my husband when we got married, and I started teaching ag 2 months after we got married. So I think being upfront about all of the responsibilities of an ag teacher, but even just week to week, start the week with a family meeting. Talk about the days you're going to be home late, what you're eating for dinner, planning for dinner, grocery shopping, all that kind of stuff is part of the plan. But just being open and upfront with your spouse. And I got some advice from people called the Cozy app or shared Google Calendars just to keep everyone on the same page. Secondly, I just want to say set a time to leave and leave it. Pick a time depending on your contract, so whatever your contract goes to, and then leave. Don't do one more thing because we're always going to have to-do lists. Always. As a teacher, as an ag teacher, there's always one more thing we can do or get ahead of or whatever. So we could stay at school 24/7 and still never be done with our work. So if we set a time to leave, we know we're going to pick up that stuff when we get home or when we get back to school. So once you set a time, stick to it and stick to that promise that you made for yourself. And then try and include family in as many events as possible. I have some pictures around here of events that I've had with my kids. Pictures on the left were literally from a couple days ago. That I had an event at school and I needed my kids to be there, or I just wanted to hang out with them for a little bit, and they were there. And then we took all three of our kids, my teaching partner and I, to camp last year. We have lots of chapter activities, alumni meetings, and stuff that we can include our family with. So why not if you can? Obviously, you can't do that when you're teaching, but just keep that in mind and remember that family comes first. I had a 12-hour day last week with this pictures, but I was able to include my family in some of that, so I wasn't just gone for 12 hours. So planning is super, super important, and remember always what comes first when you're planning. Okay, saying no. Saying no is really hard for me. I am a people pleaser. That's just my tendency. I think I learned it from my mom, who is awesome. But I have a hard time saying no to people, and it's something I've learned more recently, that I have to say no, and I don't need to apologize when I say no. So it's so important to put first things first. You're always going to have one more FFA event, one more CDE, one more field trip, one more proficiency to write, one more state degree to help students with. There's always going to be one more, but at some point there's not going to be one more first soccer game for your daughter, or one more recital at church, or one more date night, or one more of your friend's wedding. that's only going to happen once or twice or something like that. So instead of giving up on those things that might only happen once in your family that are so important, you might need to say no. I did that this weekend. My husband wasn't in town and I didn't have childcare for my kids, so I couldn't take my kids to state CDEs. Thankfully, I had a teaching partner who could and who could move in, but I've done that before where I had to say, I'm sorry, I can't do this because of my family. And I think instead of putting more stuff on our plate, at the bottom it says we all have programs of work. And some states are a little bit different when it comes to programs of work. In Georgia, we have, I should have checked, 46, 42, something like that, requirements we have to meet every year. And it includes how many state degrees, how many proficiencies, how many applications, how many CDEs we involve, and other simple stuff. But I think it is 100% okay to do the minimum requirements, but do them great. Instead of offering all 28 CDEs and then doing them, okay, maybe you do good in one and then the rest are just you're showing up, get a kid on a bus and go. Why not pick the 5? We have a minimum of 5. And then really put your heart and soul into those 5 because you can put more time and energy behind things that you're passionate about. I'm not saying take away things from your kids. I'm saying take some time to put your passion into it, then your kids will have passion for it and you won't be drained because you're dealing with all these other things. Like I would love to offer my kids forestry. I think it's such a cool thing, but I just don't know enough about it and the timing during the year is really busy when I'm doing some of the CDEs that I really feel passionate about and that my kids really like. So why offer it when I would probably just be upset about practicing? So put more of your energy behind a few things rather than putting all of your energy behind a whole bunch of things that might not end up going forward. Um, so making sure you say no to things. It could be anything from some of you are bus drivers and your school might ask you to drive the bus for somebody. It's okay to say no. I've had to say no. I drive the bus. I have my CDL because it wasn't worth it for me to drive for other people unless it was for my students. So just keep that in mind. Say no and don't apologize because you have to make the decision that's right for you. Okay, focus on one thing at a time. I've been doing a lot of research about focus and how to get stuff done. I am a procrastinator at heart and I'm trying to change that. But I've learned from some research that if you focus on one thing at a time, you can get more stuff done. So it's kind of called batch working. And I listened to a podcast from Jenna Kutcher and the Goal Digger podcast. And she said that every 1 minute and 15 seconds you lose focus. So if that's being said, you guys have lost your focus about 7 times since I've started talking. Maybe you're looking at your phone, Instagram, checking emails as you're listening to me. But that's just the way of life. It's research. You lose focus that much. And multitasking, which we do all the time as teachers, takes us 50% more time to get that thing done. So think about it. You're grading. I'm grading tests, grading quizzes. An email pops up from a parent. Oh no, I got to do it. The email's asking about the field trip we're going on next week. Oh no, I forgot to give field trip forms to the kids. You run over, you give field trip forms to the kids, you pass them out, and then you realize I didn't reserve a bus. Oh no. Well, let me reserve a bus. Calling the bus depot, making sure it's getting delivered. You have all this stuff. And then 20 minutes later, you end up back at your desk. Your planning period's over and you haven't finished grading. So obviously emergencies happen from time to time, but if you set a priority of something you're doing during your planning, set your phone away, turn your emails off, and focus on that one thing. Maybe Wednesday for me is lesson planning. And I sit and I make sure my plans for the next week are completely done on Wednesday. So I feel like I know what's going on. Once I'm done lesson planning, say it only takes me 30 minutes, then I can use that other 20 minutes to start going through my to-do list. But then I never get behind on grades. I never get behind on parent emails. I send parent emails every week, which is something I've been terrible at the past. But it helps me focus on that one thing at a time. And then something also aside of this is schedule your POA throughout the year to avoid burnout. So instead of having 20 things all in August, spread it out between your teaching partners if you have that capability. Get a cool chapter officer planner. You can get one from Perfectly Planned by ATD. She's a Georgia ag teacher who is incredible. She has a lot of officer notebooks and teacher planners that'll help you get scheduled out. This is an example of mine. I made one that worked for my students. So if you need somebody to help you out, you should talk to April Davis about how to focus on those one things. You can see my priorities over there on the left. And then self-care. Self-care is super, like, everyone's talking about it now. And I saw a post on one of the Facebook groups not that long ago, and somebody said, they were a successful teacher, but they're just, they're burnt out and they didn't know what to do. And I cannot stress it enough that you cannot pour from an empty bucket. And we are pouring our bucket out every single day for our kids. Every single day we are pouring it out, whether it's just teaching the kids in the class or practicing for CDEs, or we're trying to instill leadership into our officer team and trying to get them to learn from their failures and their successes. We are pouring all day. And if we go home and we have kids and we have a family and as soon as I get home, I have my kids, I make dinner, we're cleaning, we're, dealing with all this stuff. If I don't take any time to pour into myself, I am going to burn out. And I am going to be upset, and I am going to be in a bad mood, and I'm not going to be a good teacher. I'm not going to be a good wife. I'm not going to be a good mom. So you have to do something self-care wise. I don't know what that means to you, but you need to schedule it and put it on your calendar. Working out is something that I kind of pushed aside once I had my son last year, and now I'm getting back on it. I put it on the schedule. My husband knows when I'm going to be working out, so he knows when he has the kids or when I need to pick them up later from school so I can get a workout in after school. But I put it on the calendar so it'll happen. Maybe it's prioritizing friends or meeting with a small group from church or going to church or traveling or anything like that. Even just enjoying a hot cup of coffee because we don't have time to drink a hot cup of coffee. It's always iced for me just because I never drink it in enough time. But put it on your calendar, and it should be something that includes daily self-care. What are you doing daily to take care of yourself? What are you doing weekly to take care of yourself? Maybe that's the meeting once a week with your friends or your small group or church people and going out to lunch afterwards. And then something quarterly. Maybe it's a trip you go on with your family or you go visit somebody nearby, but it needs to be scheduled and put on the calendar. Just like you prioritize doctor's appointments and CDE events and state convention and all that kind of stuff. If you don't schedule it, it's not going to happen. So you have to schedule stuff that is going to be pouring back into you, or you will not be at your tip-top shape. You will not feel fulfilled, and you'll feel like everyone is taking from you because they are. Because that's what we do as teachers, is we give. We have to give some back to ourselves. Other simple time savers that I love, ordering groceries online. I hate going to the grocery store now. I totally order them online. They put them in my trunk. No shame. Maybe get a housekeeper if you need to. Get rid of clutter, Marie Kondo style. A cluttered house or classroom is a cluttered mind. Do whatever you can to get the clutter out so you can focus on what needs to be focused on. Delegate to students, FFA officers, and committee chairs. I will do a different webinar on that one because sometimes it's so hard to do, but they can do it. Lay out clothes and items the night before so you can just grab and go in the morning. Work with other ag teachers. Please work with other ag teachers. Find your teacher tribe and use them. Have them help you. Ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Ag teachers are good people and they will help you if you ask. And then, you know what? If you don't have enough time, don't feel bad about buying lessons or curriculum that you don't have time to do. I've bought so much stuff from other ag teachers, from other just teachers, because I didn't want to have the time to reinvent, and they already made it in this pretty little package, and it's worth that $20. I even paid $350 on something because it saved me time. And I didn't need to reinvent it, and I still use it to this day. So make sure you do these things. Plan, say no, stick to one thing, and fill your bucket first with self-care. Thank you guys so much for being here. I'm happy to help you guys in any way. Just contact me. Thank you.